everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Fazila. You're tuning into Fazila Reads. In today's video, we are going to discuss a few tips on how to read more books or tips on kickstarting your reading journey. Reading is a great way to learn more. Whether it's fiction or non-fiction, reading opens up our mind to new possibilities and experiences. And so, in my opinion, it's one of the best hobbies to have. It's super fun, it's enjoyable, relaxing, it improves our imagination, creativity, and focus, thereby improving our lives significantly. So, the first thing to keep in mind before you even start your reading journey would be to have the right mindset about reading. If you approach reading as a chore or a task, it's going to disappoint you, and not just that, it takes away all kinds of enjoyment from it. So, my tip would be to think of it as a fun way to engage your time and mind, and it's also a great form of entertainment and escapism. Now that you have put yourself in the right mindset, we can get started on with the tips. So, the first step is to set up a reading goal and also to make sure to have a system in place to track your reading progress. Setting up a reading goal is really easy. You can do it for a year, month, week, or even for the day. This can be number of books per year, month, week, to number of pages you plan to read in a day. Having some kind of a plan will always make it easier to stay organized and also to keep track of all of your reading progress. When it comes to figuring out a system to track your reading progress, you can use Goodreads or Storygraph. These are the two applications that I use, and so I can recommend them. Now, if you guys know any other applications to do this, please do let me know in the comment section. Second tip is to plan a fun TBR or to be read list. For new readers out there, a TBR is a set of books or stack of books that you've planned or selected to read. This will be the stack from which you can choose books depending on your taste and mood. And so you can arrange it in different ways like daily, weekly, monthly, or even yearly. I just think planning ahead gives you lots of options to choose from and makes it more convenient. Just make sure that you are keeping your TBR flexible. This way you can always have room to take books out and also add more into it depending on how you feel at the moment. One thing to keep in mind when selecting books to read would be to pick something you really want to read or something that sounds interesting to you rather than a random book. And if you're having a hard time choosing one to read, I would recommend writing down titles you want to read in individual papers and putting them in a bowl and drawing one at a time. And I just think this is a fun way to choose books. The tip is to create a reading habit. So, creating a reading routine that works for you and establishing a reading habit will be one of the most important things in keeping up with your reading goals. If you're not sure where to start, I would suggest trying something smaller in terms of setting reading goals. That way, you can prove to yourself it's possible and you can tackle more ambitious ones later on. Just make sure you're reading a couple of pages every day, and this will help in making good progress. Fourth tip is to eliminate all distractions. If you want to increase your overall reading speed or just want to read more books, I would recommend taking out all distractions from your life. These could be things that could keep you away from books. For example, phone, laptop, games, TV shows, etc. If you're someone who gets easily interrupted or gets distracted by interruptions or have trouble focusing on books, I would suggest setting aside a reading time. This way you can focus completely on books and get more reading done. Fifth tip is to surround yourself with books. This is in connection with accessibility of books. So one thing I would suggest is to keep a stack of books on your bedside table. This way you always have the option to read before going to bed and also after waking up. Another way you could do this is by distributing stack of books around the house. So you're constantly seeing books and makes you want to pick up books much faster. If you're going out, you could always carry books with you or Kindle or even your phone. On your phone, you could download apps like Kindle app or Libby app. This makes it so much more easier to pick up books on the go. Next step is to find your reading place or your reading nook. I would suggest finding a place that is comfortable, relaxing, and inviting so that you can peacefully read without any interruptions. Mostly read on my couch or on my bed. Just make sure you're comfortable. The more comfortable you are, the more you will read. Seventh tip, read whenever you're in the mood. I think this is the most important tip because if you're not in the mood and you're forcing yourself to read, then reading becomes a chore and it takes away all the enjoyment from reading. Forcing yourself to read a book can affect your reading progress and put you in a reading slump. And not just that, it will kill your joy for reading. If you're a beginner, you should stay away from this and always make sure to pick books up whenever you're in the mood for it. Great tip is to find books and read books in the genres that interest you and you love. If you're a beginner and you have no idea where to start, I would suggest trying out books based upon your movie or TV show's taste. Look at the list of movies and TV shows that you like to watch and pick out books based upon those genres. Once you've started reading, it is very easy to figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And if you're interested, you can always add more genres into the mix. So, the ninth tip is to participate in different kinds of challenges like buddy reads, readathons, or book clubs and put yourself out there. Being part of a community is a great way to interact with fellow readers and also enhance your enjoyment of the book. I think this is a great way to meet new people, also make friends, and have discussions with people who read the same book. Participating in readathons is another way you can choose books based on different themes, prompts, and it also helps you in setting up a TBR pile that will be a mix of books in different genres and also different themes. You can also add a wide variety of books, and this way your reading will be all the more diverse for it. Being a part of these challenges, your reading is going to be more enjoyable. That's a guarantee. The 10th tip is to read multiple books, and this is my personal favorite. When I select my books, I like to have a mix of books based on different genres, themes, and also different sizes. Doing this usually helps me in avoiding the reading slump. It's the worst thing that could ever happen to a reader. So, what I like to do is have a collection of books that usually vary in different formats, and I like to change it up throughout the day. 11th tip is to have different formats of books always available to you. Having an e-reader or a Kindle always will help with not having to carry physical books around, especially when you are unable to do so. I've always found having ebooks around to be an easy alternative to carrying physical books because it makes the reading so much more easier, and I find myself reading so much more faster when I'm reading ebooks. Ebooks are a lot more accessible to readers around the world, and not just that, it's also less expensive, and you can get most books for free on Kindle Unlimited, or you can also get books on sale, which is really a good thing. When it comes to audiobooks, they're a great way of reading, especially when you have got chores or some other mundane tasks that you can pair it with reading. This way, you can listen to your favorite book and also do your task. I think multitasking is a great way to do this, especially when you don't feel motivated and you also want to get some reading done. I like to do this especially when I'm cooking or cleaning. You can do this when you're traveling as well. Which format do you prefer to read on? 12th tip is to choose books over visual entertainment. If you find yourself leaning towards watching a show or wanting to watch a show, my recommendation would be to pick up a book. Usually, watching a show leads to binge watching the entire show, and then that would lead you down a rabbit hole and you'll be stuck there forever. If watching a show is something that you want to do badly, then you can do it, that's for sure. But if you want to read more books, my recommendation would be to pick up a book instead of watching a show or spending time more on TV. 13th tip is to always have a book ready for your next read. This tip is kind of piggybacking on the TBR one. If you hate planning ahead and you don't like to choose or plan TBRs because you rarely stick to them, then this is a great alternative to it. Keep a small selection of books that interest you so you can choose easily from it without having to stress about it or think about it too much. You don't have to commit completely. You just need to have a list that exists, and it needs to be small, about 3 books in total. Keep it simple, keep it small. So that the goal is to just make your life and reading so much more easier. 14th tip is to pick books in your comfort zone. This tip is helpful for all kinds of readers, whether you're a beginner or an avid reader. Picking books from your comfort zone will help you read them quickly and without any hiccups. But if you choose books outside of your comfort zone, it's going to take some time to getting used to it, and not just that, it can deter you from reading more. One thing to make sure when you're picking books is to always check trigger warnings or content warnings so that it's not going to trigger you in any way while you're reading it. In my opinion, choosing books, especially choosing comfort zone books, is more than selecting books that you enjoy and your favorite genres. Finding books that will have themes that interest you and also that you're comfortable with is one of the most important things to know when you're reading a book and selecting a book. A great tip is to always check the trigger warnings, the buzzwords and tags associated with it. This way you're always picking genres and themes that works for you personally and not just books that sounds good. Again, figuring out what works for you personally is of utmost importance. So, you can do this by a number of ways. You can always check your reading patterns to see which genres or books or themes that you gravitate towards, and then you can use this in the selection process. I personally like to pick favorite genres just to make it easier. And then I like to spice things up every now and then by adding a book or two that are completely outside of my comfort zone. This way, I'm also reading more diversely. What kind of books do you gravitate towards most? Let me know in the comment section. 15 tips to DNF books or stop reading if you're not feeling it. So, DNF is did not finish a book. So, you can do this either permanently or temporarily if you're not feeling it. This is something that I was completely hesitant to do when I started my reading journey back again. I felt guilty putting books down, especially when things were not working out for me. I would force myself to read it, and this not only damaged my reading experience, it also took away the enjoyment from my reading. Nowadays, I like to put my books down, especially if I'm not feeling it, either permanently or temporarily, depending on my response and mood. If it's temporary or is something that you still want to read, just not at the time or at the moment, you can always pick it up later. Now that we have discussed my top 15 tips for reading more, I'm sure you will be upping your reading game in no time. Just make sure to remember that consistency and practice is what's very important, especially when you're developing a new habit. Make sure that you're reading something every day and you'll be reaping benefits from all the progress that you've made over the course of the time. Now that you're all set up to step up your reading game for this year, tell me your top favorite tips to use to read more. Which ones do you think works best for you on this list? I would love to know. Let me know in the comment sections down below. Happy reading and have fun while you're at it. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye bye.